Okay, so this week's wonders. This is the wonders of this week. Very special because this week it speaks about this week's Parasha that we were just in, which is Parashat Mas'eh. It's the end of Chumash Bamidbar. So we say at the end, Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek, that we should all grow from strength to strength, which is very interesting because it has a lot to do with what we're talking about. But in any case, the introduction is that we have a journey, the journey of the nation of Israel coming out of Egypt and leading up to going into the land of Israel. And that journey is summed up by the borders, the inheritance, the estate, the nachala that we are going to have. Every tribe has its own, and every person has its own special part in the land of Israel. So that's the journey. And what we're taking this journey, and Hasidut in general takes the journey to say that every person has that journey in his life, meaning just like the nation of Israel had a physical journey, we also have a physical journey with 42 membet, 42 stops in that journey. And every soul, when it comes to this world, has the same journey. Now, again, obviously, it's not the same journey. We are not all walking in the desert, thank God. But we're going through things in life that resemble, that have connection, special connection to each one of the stops in the 42 journeys. So the first introduction is that we are going through a journey. The next thing that we're going to speak about is that that journey has to do with a very special word, with the word fate, goral. Now, goral is not only fate, it also could be a lottery, and also could be destiny. There's a lot of special meanings to the word goral, but we're going to take it as a simple meaning of the fate, meaning we are going through this journey to reach something, to reach a destiny, to reach our fate. So the second thing that we're going to discuss is, how do we know that we're on the right path, that we're reaching our fate? That's the second part. So we have a journey, we have a destiny, and at the end, which brings it all together a bit, although it's still very open, and Rav Ginsburg is probably going to add more to this. But at the end, we speak about how do we, in our day-to-day life, connect to Hashem in a way that allows us to a bit have a hint or connection, have a better way of looking at our destiny and our journey, and to make sure that we're on the right path. So here we have it, the introduction to what we're going to try to speak today, and I will take it from the beginning. So we always like to start from the Nom Elimelech, Rabbi Elimelech from Lezhensk. And this week he also speaks about the journey. He says that the 42 stations in the journey represent 42 different worlds. And each world, we as people could divert from it, could sin in the simple sense is to miss the target, to divert from the way it should be. That's vaisu, to travel, to leave. And then each journey also has the word vayachanu, to park, in a sense, to be in that journey the way it's supposed to be. And what the Nom Elimelech says is, every time that we divert from the journey, the tzaddikim, which is all of us, park in that place in order to fix and make better that area, that special world that is represented. And lots of back and forth. But we want to get into, again, the goral, the destiny, everyone's special goral, special fate, and special goal in life that he has is something that's above our understanding. Meaning we can't understand each person's fate. If we were able to understand it, it wouldn't work. The fate only works by the fact that we that we don't have the simple knowledge of it. Meaning, if we knew what we were supposed to do in this world, we wouldn't do it the best way. Now, where do we see this fate, this goral in the bigger picture in our holiday? We see it in Purim. Purim, if we take the word, what is the word Purim from? The word pur. Pur is a lottery. It's goral. Who did the goral originally? Who made a lottery in order to win? That's Haman, one of the most evil characters that we ever have, that wanted to destroy the Jewish people. And he made a lottery, and he knew that there's a special power in this lottery, that he wanted to find the specialist day of the year that he could win. By the way, very interestingly, someone won the lottery in the States for over $1 billion. His special lottery. Well, maybe connected a little bit to what we're saying. But Haman does a lottery, and in that lottery, he comes to the 7th day of Adar. Well, I don't know if the 7th day, I'll take that back, to the month of Adar. And he says to himself, beautiful. Why is the month of Adar so special? Because the leader of the Jews, Moshe, passed away in Adar. So we're good. It's the end. It symbolizes, the lottery that I threw symbolizes that the path of the Jews is ending just like the leader ended. And he didn't know. What didn't he know? That it was also the birth of Moshe. That every time that a path ends, another one starts until the final destination is reached. We are in a journey. He didn't know the journey, but we in Purim, we celebrate that lottery. We celebrate the fact that we have a higher destiny than the way Haman saw it. Second. Okay. Very tough over here with the technical stuff, so I apologize for that. Now, Goral, the destiny, is also my life mission. Meaning my destiny in life is my life's mission. Now, who knows his life mission? So no one knows, but at the end of the days, the Baal Shem Tov said about himself that he understands, that he already knows his mission in his life. And understanding the mission is something very important that we're going to dwell on. Again, where else do we see this lottery? Where else do we see that we have a lottery, a very special lottery? The holiest day of the year, which is not Purim, it's Kippurim, like Purim, in the temple. One of the top parts of the day, one of the most exciting parts of the day, is when the high priest stands and does a lottery. There are 2 goats, and he takes 2 pieces of wood. He writes on one of them Hashem for Hashem, and one of them goes to Azazel, which a simple translation is hell, but goes to the desert, goes to be thrown away. And he does a lottery. There's many, many halachot about the special way of doing the lottery. And then he picks. One goat goes and gets to the altar and goes to the most specialist place that a goat could go. The highest of the goat world is expecting to go on the Mizbeach. And the other one goes to the worst place in the world, to the desert where it gets thrown from a mountain. But we see that even that goat serves its purpose, meaning at the end of the day, you can't have a lottery with one goat. So that goat serves a special purpose. Now, we know of a very special story that is going to connect these things for us and make it even more wondrous. We know of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, one of the most special Tanaim that ever lived. He was in Jerusalem at the time of the destruction of the Second Temple, and he was in the city, and he decided that he's gonna leave the city and go to try to speak to the Roman. It wasn't the Roman king yet; it was the Roman leader outside the walls. So he faked his death. And when they took him in a casket, and he managed to leave the city And when he got to the Roman camp, he spoke to the Roman leader and told him that you're going to be the king. So to make the story short, even though it's a beautiful story that there's a lot to learn from, but the Roman king asked him, what do you want? And he told him, I want Yavne, the city of Yavne, and Chachamea, and some of the leadership of the wise Jews that I can connect and leave in Yavne. Leave me that city and some of the rabbis, the special wise people of the generation, and don't destroy it. And that's what happened. Anyways, the story is that at the end of his days, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai told his students that I am very, very nervous. They asked him, what do you have to be nervous about? Now we have to understand, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai never walked even Daled Amud, even small distance without tefillin, and he learned Kabbalah, and he was one of the leaders of the generation. What do you have to be nervous about? And he says, I don't know. With a normal king, that he punishes you and he can get you in trouble, a person is nervous. With Hashem that no one knows, I don't know. And I don't know which way I'm going. If I'm going in the right path to heaven or not. And finally the story ends that he tells them, make room for Chizkiyahu Melech Yehuda. The Chizkiyahu, the king of Judah that passed away many generations ago, make room for him. But what do we see? We see that he was nervous. Why was he nervous? Because there are two ways. There are two ways to go in life. And Chassidut teaches us in the most inner depth that the way you're going does not have to do with what you did, with your physical doings. It has to do with your soul. There's a very, very special Yom Yom. Yom Yom says that that a person that can make diamonds, that can a person that can shift diamonds and work with diamonds, if he's going to work in the field collecting bread or doing anything simple, it would be a sin for him. Even though it's a job is a job. But if you're meant to do something bigger and you did something smaller, then that's a sin. Chassidut has that concept in general in life, meaning not only everything that you do is not only measured by is it good or bad, it's also measured by your inner neshama. If you're connected to your fate, to what you're supposed to go, to your way. And Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai was wondering. And again, some of the Mefarshim say he was wondering if he made the right decision. He was literally a beautiful way of looking at two fates of life. Well, what would have happened if he would have told the Roman leader that I want you to save Yerushalayim? Just walk away. Maybe he would have listened, just like he listened about Yavne. Or maybe he could have stayed in the city and tried to help them win. Or maybe he could have said, save the temple. Who knows? There's so many decisions that he could have made. But he decided that the right decision was to go for Yavne. That is a path. And you don't know. You don't know if it's the right path. If that's where your neshama was supposed to be. If that is the journey that you were supposed to take. Now, why is Chizkiyahu Melech Yehuda so special? Because in a sense, he made the opposite arrangement. At his time, there was a siege over Yerushalayim, and there was no way to win. There were so many soldiers, there was no way to win. And he didn't even fight. He just went in his bed and said to Hashem, yeah, you got to take over. He turned to the wall and said, and prayed, and Hashem killed all the soldiers outside the walls. He picked the opposite answer. He went for Yerushalayim, even though the odds were completely against winning, and he won. And he was Mashiach. We know that that Chachamim say that if he would have said Shira, if he would have sung to Hashem, if he would have said praise, maybe like the Tehillim that David HaMelech said, then he would have been Mashiach. Very deep. something to look at. But we see someone that made the opposite decision, and he's coming to walk with Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. That's a beautiful way of showing that your way was the right way. That you're just like I chose a way to stay in the city, you chose a way to walk out of the city, and it was the right path. But Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai did not know. Now, something phenomenal that we learn in Chassidut that the Alter Rebbe did know. He said that I do know my faith, I do know my mission, I know which way I'm going. Which is again something phenomenal that we have to understand. Are we supposed to try to know the faith, or is it never supposed to be known? Does nobody know the faith, or maybe someone does know? So that's the biggest question that we have that we're going to try to elaborate more about. Now, this special word goral is also the source. The goral is the source of the neshama. That the connection, the strongest connection that you can have with your neshama is by acting upon your destiny, is by doing what you're supposed to do, by fulfilling your mission in life. Wow, we're running late, unfortunately. I apologize. So we have 42 journeys, but the 42 journeys, what do they lead to? They lead to giving over the or a lottery for the estates of Eretz Israel, which means that there's a special connection between our place in the land of Israel, our neshama, and Hashem. And every person has his connection to that piece of land. And it's very, very important. By the way, we know that the lottery was very interesting because every person knew where they were, meaning Hashem already decided where everyone is going. And even we know that Yaakov, he blessed his sons, talking about their inheritance. Like everyone knew what was going to happen, but still they had a lottery. There was something very special about this lottery that's supposed to connect you from somewhere, something above our understanding, to this world. Now, what are all these journeys? So there's a very special journey that we learn from this journey about all the journeys that a person does. The journey is Vayisu Mimara. They left this place which was very bitter, and they journeyed on from Mara. Vayavo Elima, and they came to this place called Elima. Elima could be split into two words, Eli, which is Hashem, and Ma is it could also be numerically Adam, but it could also be not understanding. So our journeys in general, the journeys that we have in life are very bitter sometimes, meaning they're not something we know. And what we can get to initially is just not knowing, is saying, I don't know. I don't know why Hashem is leading me in this path. We don't know. That is the first part of the journey. The journey could be very bitter. Again, every journey is bitter in this life. We know that tzaddikim, righteous people, and at the time to come, at the time of Mashiach and on, they will be going through journeys. But the difference is that the journeys will not be bitter. In this world, just getting up from your chair and going somewhere is bitter. It's something hard. No one wants to go from where he is. Everyone wants to be put. Obviously, everyone wants to be put in the right place. But once you're put in the right place, you don't want to move. The journey in this world is bitter. But the bitterness, what does it lead to? It leads to not knowing, but not knowing is only the first stage. Not knowing is the first stage, and the second stage is knowing. At the end of the days, there's a very, very special story from Rabbi Nachman from Breslov that says that at the end, I'm making it very short, it's like a person that's walking towards the king, and there's many, many hurdles on the way. And when he gets to the king, he turns around and sees that there are no hurdles at all. Meaning at the end, we will see how every journey was important. Even the journeys of sins have a purpose, but that purpose is only something that we'll know להתחיל level. Now, what do we know about these journeys? These journeys are to create an army. Letzivotam. Now, every time we connect to the journey, we become more soldiers. We're supposed to, every part of the journey is supposed to make us more connected to be a soldier, to be the right soldier that we're supposed to be. It's like a training facility that we go from one place to another in order to become something. Now, what's the goal? The goal is to be able to know things in the most specialist way of knowing. Now, there's two ways of knowing. They both come from the word zeh, which numerically is the number 12, which has a lot of connection to this parasha. Again, if anyone wants to see, there's a lot of beautiful mazim about it. But one way of looking is with our eyes, the way we see things, and one way of looking is with our hearts. There's the eye of the heart, the way of looking from the heart, which could have a way of looking in a much higher level. Where do we see these ways? Where do we see the zeh? Zeh, this. When someone says this, at the end of days we will say this is Hashem. Zeh keili ve'anveyu. Again, the keili is Hashem in that sense. Ve'anveyu is like neved, like his house. In the temple, you could say this is where Hashem wants to be. This is the journey. The journey is for the temple. You could say that. Obviously, that saying was not enough, and Hashem had to destroy the temple when, in the time where we are very, very sad about the temple. But again, there's seeing, there's the things we see in our eyes, and there's seeing the way Hashem is seeing things, which is the higher way of looking at things. And that way is only if we connect to Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, there's a very special saying from Rabbi from Parich. He says that a misnaged, someone that's not a chassid, a simple, in a sense, a simple Jew that does the right things, he doesn't try to understand. He's in gvul. He knows there are borders. He's supposed to go through a journey, and he does what he's supposed to do. That's a mitnaged. That's the old way of doing things. A chassid, the new way of chassidut, is bli gvul. We say there are no borders. We know that we're going through a journey, and therefore the borders are not they're not what means something to us. What means something to us is just Hashem. We are not looking at this world. We're looking for Hashem, which is great, but at the end of the day, we want the borders. So what is a Rabbi? And in this generation, we should all be connected to a Rabbi. What is the most specialist way? Is to be in the world of having bli gvul, no borders, in the borders of the world. Meaning being able to see that in this world is where Hashem wants to be. Hashem doesn't, the highest thing in the world is not miracles. The highest thing in the world is to be able to look at this world the way Hashem sees it. A beautiful way for Hashem to be here. That's the highest place. That's the highest journey that a person can get to. That's the destiny. To have a place in this world that the infinite, the Ein Sof, Hashem could live in, could see it within the borders. Now, what is the worst place in the world at the time, but in general, is Egypt. What's so bad about Egypt in the inner understanding, the feminine side of Egypt, is that what Egypt is representing is a person that everything, he has brains, he has midot, he has different inclinations, but they're all leading to the way he wants to feel himself, meaning to this world. Everything is coming, all the thought processes that I have, all the things that I do in life, all is coming. What is it coming to in Egypt? It's coming to how I feel. I want to feel better. And therefore, I'm going to do everything in my mind and everything in my power to feel better. Just about myself. The worst way of Egypt is when Pharaoh said, Li yori v'ani asitin. I created the Nile River. I created everything. Everything is for me. Therefore, it's like I created everything. That's the worst way to live. What's the best way to live? What is the way to live in Israel, in Eretz Israel, in our special inheritance? The way to live is the same way, but the opposite. The way is not far from heaven. We know that's the spies, the bad spies. What was their sin? That they wanted to live in the desert. They wanted to live with Hashem in the desert. That's a beautiful way of living, away from this world. Manna from heaven, just me and Hashem. But Israel, the land of Israel, is a place where Hashem wants to see things in this world, where the physical being, where the way I feel about things is the way Hashem feels about things. That connection is what the land of Israel represents. And that's the opposite of Egypt. Now, how do we do this? How do we make the endless go into this world? How do we connect to Hashem in a way that allows for this world to be a beautiful place to live? And the answer, and we'll say it a bit short, but the answer is that we connect by mesirut nefesh, by giving ourselves up. In order to be able to achieve the good of this world, we have to be willing to give it all up. Give it all up for Hashem. Hashem, if you want, you can take my life. You can take everything. I'm giving it all to you. Once I'm doing that, what am I becoming? I'm becoming a soldier. What's the difference between a regular slave and an eved and a soldier? Difference is that a slave is not supposed to give up his life. That's not the goal. The goal is for him to serve. What's a soldier supposed to do? The number one thing that we expect from a soldier is to give up his life. If needed, obviously no one wants, but if needed, a soldier in any army is supposed to give up his life. It's the base of a soldier. And Hashem wants us to be soldiers. Now, what type of soldiers? And this is the secret. The secret is that the best soldier is a spy. Is a soldier that goes to the other, Rav Ginsburg brought the example of a famous Eli Cohen, that if someone, for some reason, doesn't know the story, should read up about the most famous spy, one of the wondrous stories of the in the world of spies is Eli Cohen, that went to Syria and became one of the top officials in the Syrian atmosphere, call it. He wasn't in the parliament exactly, but he was one of the top levels, and he was a spy. Now, how does a spy feel? A spy is willing to give up his life. Not only that, he's living, in a sense, every second of his life. He understands that if he says the wrong thing, if he does the wrong thing, that's it, it's over. He'll find himself hung. Chas v'shalom. That's what a spy is willing to do. Now, if we're willing to be that spy, if we're willing to live in this world, a spy has a story, has a cover story. We all have a cover story in this world. We have the things that we try to do, but we understand that we're on a mission and we're willing to give up our life. That special connection could allow us to connect enough to be able to see our destiny, to see our mission, and connect through that to this new way of looking at things. And at the end of the day, that's redemption. Redemption is to be able to live in this world with complete understanding and connection to the way Hashem sees it. And live in a journey, a never-ending journey, michail el chayil, from strength to strength, from one place to another, but in a joyous way, in a beautiful way, in a way of the land of Israel, which is supposed to represent the way of connecting to the physical without having the self view that hurts us from viewing the way of Hashem, but rather connecting to the physical with the straight view from Hashem. So we tried to cover. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. We do have a shiur here in Yerushalayim, and if anyone wants to come, then definitely welcome. I will take some questions, although we are over time a little bit, but I will take some questions. But before that, I'll try to summarize. We said that there's a journey, and in that journey, we don't know if we're headed to the right destiny or not. And the way to know, the way to be able to see things clearly is to be giving ourselves over. And the best way to do that is like a spy, where you live in this world, but you're fully connected. You know where you belong. Okay, I see there's a question. Correct. it's very interesting that Hashem wanted the spies to be spies of Moshe. Very, very interesting. That could be looked at. But the simple way that I understand it is that in order to be the right spy, you have to be connected to a rabbi, to a rabbi, not just a regular rabbi, a special tzaddik. That the view of the tzaddik, what did Hashem say? You should send the spies. Because if they would look at things the way you, Moshe, look at things, then they could be very successful to the point that the land of Israel will be theirs right away and you can go in with them. But that has to come from the way you view things, because if they look at things the way they look at things, it could lead to a disaster. All right, any more questions? Okay, so I didn't understand the first part of the question, but let's look at the second part. The second part of the question is, in what way are we spies today? So if we look at it in every way, we live in this world. The world, there's billions of people in this world. What do they want? They want to feel something. They want to feel themselves. They want to know themselves and feel good about themselves. That's the way the world is going. Everyone is connected to that way. We live and go the same way in the world, except we're spies. Why are we spies? Because we're trying to achieve a different goal altogether. We're trying to have Hashem be in this world, which is the opposite of the stream of how people are going. And if we're willing to do it with all the intent of a real spy, with all the danger that comes along with it, but we always connect to the real mission, that's being a Jewish soldier, a good Jewish spy. If someone is trying to say a question and I can't hear you, you can chat me. I can open the other microphone, see if that works. Otherwise, I can read in the chat.
Recording in progress.
Okay, interesting question. 1 second. Oh, how do I make this? Maybe like this. Okay, so the question is, in what way are we spies and not and don't give up our intentions? The answer to that is, I can try to answer my way, but at the end of the day, it's a good question. But at the end of the day, the answer is that if you do your job correctly, then people that live one way will not recognize that you're not living their way. Meaning, if you're living correctly, then it looks like you're also trying to do what everyone else is trying to do, to have fun in the world. But if you're doing it right, your only goal is for Hashem to be in this world. And that's how everything works out. It's a bit complicated, but I hope it answered it a little bit. So yes, unfortunately, we don't know where he's buried. Has been trials to get Eli Cohen out of his burial site. That was a question. But unfortunately, we still don't know where he is. Okay.
So the Haredim are not doing it so right.
Go again?
Haredim are not doing it right then, because they're completely separate. They don't look like they're trying to do what the rest of the world is doing. They're like untouchable.
Correct. That's why we said that Rabbi Hillel said that a mitnaged, the simple Haredi way, is gvul. Is saying, no, I'm not a spy. I'm just not connected. I have my own borders, my halacha, and that's it. The world? Okay. I have to be here. What can I do? A Chassid does the opposite. He says, there's Hashem. I still don't look at the world. The world is still meaningless, but it's meaningless because there's no real borders. Everything is Hashem. Still ignoring the world. A real spy looks at the world and says, yeah, beautiful place. Let's have fun. But do it in the way that Hashem wants to see it. The best fun. All right. Again, I apologize. Oh, here, there's another question. So the actual let's ask the question. The question is simple. The 42 journeys, some of them were sins. How does that represent us in our day-to-day, in our journeys? So that's the Kabbalah, that's the secret of these journeys that we don't know. I didn't want to get into it, but in business it's the same way. It says, Ein Adam Yodeya, a person doesn't know, Me'efu mitparnes, from where his parnasah, his profits will come. Why is that? Why is it so important to keep the journey a secret? Because just think about it. If everyone knew where they would make money, they wouldn't do anything else. If you knew which journey led to which thing, you wouldn't do the other journeys. You would just circumvent, as I don't know about other people, but when I was a kid and I was learning these journeys, I was so frustrated. Come on, look at the map. 3 days, here, there, finished. What are all these journeys? Sinai is a very small place. You should ask the Egyptians that ran away in the 6-day war. It's a very small place. A couple days and you're over. The whole journey is such a secret way of looking at life that only La'atid Lavo will we be able to see it completely, or if we connect to Hashem the way that the Baal Shem Tov teaches. And if we connect fully, then it says that the Baal Shem Tov knew when he wasn't able to go to the land of Israel, Achia, I think, his teacher came to him and taught him which journey he's at and what does it represent. But yes, setbacks are sins in this sense. If you're trying to get somewhere and you have a setback, that's a sin. Okay. Very good. All right. So thank you, everyone. And Bezrat Hashem, next week there will be a shiur in the Beit HaMikdash. Unfortunately, if we'll be fasting, then there will not be shiur. And Bezrat Hashem, everyone should have a very good and fun summer, the way we explained.